As you can see, we're back in my regular digs, which I greatly appreciate because I know where to find stuff. So we're off to a good start today. Oh, my neighbor's just getting back from his bike ride this morning, and it's actually reasonably cool out. So lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, well, we'll give it a minute for people to pop on. We're actually a few minutes later than usual, and oftentimes that means we get a few more viewers live because, well, it is a Sunday. Some people can sleep in. I am just not a sleeper inner. So I've been drinking coffee waiting. I'm here, made it. Good morning, Joe Neal. So please excuse the ratty t-shirt, but today is Tear Apart the Basement Day. So I'm going to pre-dose with an ibuprofen, and my niece and I are going to be hauling as much stuff up out of the basement as we possibly can. So, but I made a nod to all of you. Good morning, Barb. Glad you're here. Welcome. I put on my good earrings and some lipstick. So there's actually a Mary Kay national sales director who said every time you're out and about, she wants to see your big pearly teeth smiling with surrounded by Mary Kay lipstick. And I'm like, all right, girl, we can do this. So yesterday, well, actually, I went up on Thursday. My poor baby, she's sick. So she's got the little snots. So we had to get out the infamous nose sucker. They hate that. They absolutely hate that. So some of the times I was just pinching and grabbing, and she sneezed and was blowing stuff everywhere. So I'm hunting around the house here for my emergency, and we'll see if we can fend this off. We'll see how good my immune system is. Good morning, Beth. Welcome. Glad you are here. We have a wonderful card today. Don't I always say that? Once in a while, there's a card where I'm like, really? I got to do this one, and then I'll muscle test, and it'll be strong. It's like, damn, got to do this one. Welcome to whomever's not rolling. Glad you're here. Good morning, Gwen. Welcome. Good morning, Mel. Hello, hello. All the practical rebels rolling in. So we have a card from the Wild Harmonic deck by Gabriel J. Marihugh. And interestingly, good morning, Nancy. Welcome. I saw an email from him roll through. I haven't had a chance to get through my hundreds of emails yet, but someone rolled through from him, and he very rarely sends emails. So I have to check that out and see what that's about. But I think it's interesting that his card deck popped up the day after he sends a rare email. So I'm sure there's much in the message that will be of assistance to us. So let's start with some tapping and some breath. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more nice deep one. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And you can keep tapping if that's feeling good to you. Pick another spot if that feels good to you. If you feel like you're kind of stuck today, this is your kind of reset button. Do that one for a while. I like doing them together because then you're getting double bang for the buck, I think. We write our own scripts, right? Yeah. So, Wild Harmonic deck. And I love the image of the woman with the butterflies flying off. Our card, tip this down so I don't lose my page, is the Fire of Air card, Empowered Discernment. I love the art on these also. They're very powerful. A lot of sacred geometry in these cards. And I have to say, one card really doesn't do this deck justice. If you're going to buy some card decks, I would highly recommend this deck because there's so much you can do with it. One of the things that you can do with it, I've done a couple of times, and it's been very enlightening, is you pull out all of the shadow cards and do a reading just with the shadow cards. And they were spot on. So this one, however, for today is our Fire of Air card, Empowered Discernment. Empowered Discernment, Fire of Air. As the driving will, that's in us, the driving will, ascends into the interconnected intelligence, all it is, an informed ability to make one's way is fostered. An informed ability to make one's way. So we're walking our path from a knowledgeable place. The meditation. I love this first sentence. Listen closely. I'll probably read it a couple of times. Making choices that cut away that which divides, demeans, or otherwise disempowers. Could we not use some of that energy rolling around Mother Earth these days? Cutting away that which divides, demeans, and otherwise disempowers. This card calls me to be decisive and wise in my choices regarding what I allow in my life. If you're doom scrolling, my guess is that's going to fall by the wayside. Just saying. Each time I make a tough decision, I empower myself to wield ever greater effectiveness. Isn't it wonderful when we feel effective with our decision making? When you're kind of blathering around and doesn't feel like the decisions you're making are landing or accomplishing what you're hoping they're going to accomplish, that's not a fun state of being. That's not a fun state of being at all. So this is about being fully grounded, fully centered, connected to the divine, making decisions with wisdom. Standing at the center of my magic circle, I call the guardians to enforce the boundaries that keep the circle whole. Yet I know that they are only as mighty as I allow them to be. We're only as supported as the help we allow in, those we invite to support us. Been having some interesting go-arounds with that lately in terms of things that I can't do by myself. And who am I going to ask? Who do I even have to ask? My cohort is in about as good a shape as I am, or worse even. So people who are physically not in great shape are not the people I'm going to be asking me to help move furniture and haul stuff up from the basement. My dad and my sister are coming today to haul stuff up from the basement. But the plan is, and we'll see how well this goes, ensconce 91-year-old dad who has trouble moving out in the garage and have him sorting stuff out. Sorting stuff that's in the metal pile, sorting stuff that can be thrown out, etc., etc. We'll see how well this goes because he likes to get in the middle of it and muck it up, but we'll see. Overcome the invisible momentums that lure me into self-importance and self-pity. Those are slippery slopes. We don't really want to go with self-importance and self-pity. I will grant myself here and there the 3-minute white hot pity party, and then I'm moving on. Because otherwise you just get stuck in it and feel, again, disempowered. And that's not a stance we want right now. Again, grounded, solid, attached to Mother Earth, connected to the divine, connected to all that is, connected to all the power that we need to accomplish whatever it is we want to accomplish, right? I reclaim my creative energies, and in doing so, find the center of the universe. I reclaim my creative energies. What do you allow yourself for creative time? And you might say, well, Bonnie, I don't have time to be creative, to paint, to play music, to dance, to all the things. I don't have time. Make time. Make time. Why? Because it utilizes entirely different parts of your brain and opens up all of that energy to be used for the everyday stuff you are trying to accomplish. When you throw the creative part of your brain at things you're trying to solve, even if they seem to be logical and logistical and all that, you're going to get a whole lot farther, and you're going to have a whole lot more options available to you to address that. Welcome to those of you whose names are not rolling. Glad you are here. Show you our card here. Fire of air, empowered discernment. So again, we're making decisions from the wise part of ourselves, from the part of ourselves that is connected to the universal wisdom. That's a much better spot to operate from than I'm just going to wing this. So here's our inquiry question. If some of you regulars could put this in the feed, I would greatly appreciate it. What is in my best interest to cut out of my life right now? What is in my best interest to cut out of my life right now? And you might hear those words cut out as harsh, but sometimes we need to take the sword and sever the cords of things that are not serving us. There's that one video game. I don't do video games, but my kids used to play it where they're going through all these screens, and when they'd kill somebody, which I thought was disgusting, and they're like rolling their eyes at me, but whatever. They've turned out to be decent human beings, not serial killers, so I guess whatever. But it would drag the body behind them, and pretty soon you'd have this line of bodies dragging behind them. And whenever I think about the clutter that we carry in our lives, I think of that. This is all the stuff we're schlepping with us that isn't serving us, that's bogging us down. Time to let that stuff go. And if it's more of a psychic kind of a thing, or an energy kind of a thing, or a memory kind of a thing, trauma stuff, whatever, you might need to do some kind of a ritual to let it go. To let it go. Took your breath away. And so it is. And so it is. Feel into this. Again, I'm going to bring up my favorite question I ever pose to anybody I'm working with. What is it you're pretending not to know? What is it you're pretending not to know? Many of us are like, la, 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 with the things that we're getting the little whisper in our ears. Okay, this relationship has run its course. Okay, this job is no longer serving you. Okay, this house has become an albatross around your neck. Okay, on and on and on, right? This car is nickel and diming you to death. No, it's not always easy to do. It's absolutely not easy to do. That's why it's worth doing. That's why it's worth doing. Sometimes we're making choices all day, every day about what are we willing to tolerate? What are we willing to put up with? And sometimes it can be cutting loose the whole of something, a job. Sometimes it can be cutting loose parts of it. So let's say there's a coworker who drives you nuts because they're overseeing everything you do. Maybe it's addressing the issues with that coworker. Maybe it's not chucking the whole job. Maybe it's addressing the issues with that coworker. I would then hearken you back to taking the war out of our words. How do you address these things from a place of strength, from a place of centeredness, from a place of calm? And is it always easy to do that in the moment? No, which is why sometimes it's very helpful to make the decision that you're going to plan ahead to do that. Hey, Jane, can we have a conversation? Sure, what's up? I need to talk to you about how you and I interact. I need to set some boundaries and some ground rules for our relationship, our work relationship moving forward. Take a whack at it. If you're feeling like, oh, that'll never go well, it may still be worth doing. It may also be that you go and talk to the boss and say, hey, I'd like you to sit down with Jane and me, and we need to work some things through. Or I'd like, or maybe you do it with an HR person if the company's big enough to have HR. And I know many of you are going to say, yeah, HR is useless, my boss is useless, blah, blah, blah. It's more important that you set the boundary and stop allowing the kind of behavior that is bothersome to you. If nothing there is going to change, maybe then you do need to look at what are my options for a different job here? What are my options for a different job? Or let's say you're 6 months from retirement. How will I choose to perceive this circumstance differently to move through those 6 months? What if I, instead of viewing Jane as an insufferable busybody, I frame her as an insufficient, a person who's feeling insufficient herself and therefore has to ride everybody else's tail? What if I see her as handicapped in some way, that she has these kinds of relationships with people, etc., etc.? It's never going to be easy, Barb. It's never going to be easy, but it is worthwhile. You have to choose if you're going to keep yourself locked in an unhealthy relationship with somebody, or if you're going to do what you can do to move it towards some healthier boundaries. Healthier boundaries. Again, I know I hear all the time from clients, well, that's not so simple, blah, blah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's still worthwhile. My sister and I have a very difficult relationship. We still keep coming back to it. We still keep banging our heads against the wall. We still keep trying to figure out ways to be amicable with each other. Is it working well? Not always. Not always. Last night, I called her. We were having a conversation, and she said, you know, when we're both exhausted is probably not the time to try to have this conversation. And I was like, yes, I get that. So fine, we'll cut it off now and talk to me in the morning before you leave to come here because I feel like we need some boundaries in place in order for this to not just end up being yet one more notch in the belt of discord. So I'm sure we'll have a conversation this morning, and we've even agreed that we don't agree on what constitutes a conversation. She'll say, well, we talked about that. And I'll say, no, we didn't. We mentioned it. We did not talk about it. So we have very different perspectives of the world. We have very different ways of problem solving. We have very different views of things. Yes. And we just continue to work and work and work and work on it. And you may say, well, some people just aren't worth that effort. Absolutely so. But then what are you going to change in yourself so that the circumstances become less arduous? If you're crying every day on the way to work, something's amiss. So what are you willing to do about it? And if you're not willing to do anything about it, then find a way to put up with it and tolerate it, because that's a choice you're making. That's a choice you're making. And I know that sounds harsh. You don't know my person. You don't know this complicated. Yeah, I get it. But again, all you have control over is you. You. What are you willing to do? And if you're not willing to do anything, then you need to find a way to deal with what is and not complain to others about it. Because if you're not willing to do the things that you can do, they're not going to be able to help you with anything either. They can't intervene, or they shouldn't intervene. It's not their circus, not their monkeys, right? So, empowered discernment. The thing I would say about that also is the longer you wait, the more disempowered you get. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. It chews you up and spits you out over time. And one of the difficult things about that is because it's a paper cut, you don't think it's a big hairy deal. And then it gets infected, and then it starts festering, and then you got gangrene, and then your hand drops off. All of that stuff builds up. And typically then what happens is we have a process that's called constrain, explode, constrain, explode, constrain, explode. So you hold it in, you suck it up, you suck it up, you suck it up, and then you blow their hair off because you weren't addressing it all the way along. What I tell my clients and what I tell myself is err on the side of feeling petty. Speak up at the point where you feel petty. Speak up at the point where they may accuse you of being petty, in which case my response would be, I want to deal with this when it's a little deal, not when it's a big hairy deal and we're screaming at each other. That's not useful. That's not helpful. So, empowered discernment. Again, is this stuff easy? No. But is it worth it? Yes. Making choices that cut away that which divides, demeans, or otherwise disempowers. So I'll leave you with that sentence for the day. Have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. We'll see how my knees are tomorrow. It's a lot of stuff to move out of that basement. Clearing clutter, clearing clutter. It is good. Remember, you are capable of far more than you think you are, and that will serve you well with today's message. Bye-bye.